you miss a flight?
I will feel guilty and ashamed. Guilty because I could not plan it well. Ashamed because of the, whatever is planned when I'm supposed to land. If that is not happening, I would feel, oh, I did not really do it well. So probably shame will be.
Okay. And when somebody cheats you?
I will feel disappointed, dejected, disappointed, betrayed. I'll feel angry. And there is a possibility of saying there as well that how could I not see this before?
And when you are leaving your own home for a long time?
Uh, it will be a mixed emotion. It depends on how long I'm leaving for, because I generally am a person who travels a lot and I love solo travel. I love time with myself and exploring this world. So depending on that, it could be excitement on looking forward to what this trip is going to be all about. The sadness of not being at home.
Anupam ma'am, you're on mute. Can you unmute yourself? Veena, you also unmute, ma'am.
I am on unmute, but I have asked the questions, no, right? So
Yeah,
Veena,
yeah, just now.
Yeah. So Veena, why? What was my, objective to ask such questions? Most of the time, we find it very difficult to know about our emotions.
Yeah.
Right. And I know it is very, very important for people to understand, to be aware of, and to discuss about the emotions, right? So you tell us why it is important to talk about our emotions and to talk about our emotional pain if there is any. And by talking, how we can make a difference, in the situation itself.
Sure.
So we would like to know from you.
Sure. So before answering, thank you, Viva and Divya, for having me here. And I'm so glad to be here looking at all of you. So much grace is here in this space. So very happy to be here as part of this conversation. I love that ice-breaking activity that you did, Anubhav ma'am. It was such a, such an exciting experience to go through, because we cannot fake answers on these lines. It doesn't come from head; it comes from our heart when we talk about emotions. So it was a fantastic icebreaker because we could touch upon the spectrum of emotions as part of it, which is brilliant. So now coming to your question and how do we start? Why do we need to start talking about emotions? What are these emotions? And what will happen if we don't talk about the emotions? Right? So, um, emotions, the way I look at it, is primarily a lot of wisdom that we walk every minute with when we are in this world. But unfortunately, in the world that we are in, we have been conditioned to look at emotions as a monster from childhood, right? So, in the child in us, the inner child in us, has made fear as a monster, anger as a monster, sadness as a monster. And despite of our ages, we could be somewhere between 40 to 75 in this particular group. But despite that, we are feeling like, oh my God, that monster should not, come to my life. I should not look at the monster. See, we are not really acting from our adult energy. We are acting from our inner child energy. And that is why we are not able to really look at emotions. But emotion is nothing but a lot of wisdom that this life has given to us to carry with us every minute. I normally ask people, can you point out even one single thing in the nature that doesn't have meaning? Show me one thing as part of nature which doesn't hold a meaning, which is useless. It is very difficult to point out that. So when nature is created so perfectly, everything as part of it has a use. Why do we believe that we as humans, which is also part of nature, we are all part of nature, that there is something in us is flawed? Why are we not able to see ourselves as a perfect creature? And whatever is happening within us is exactly what is required for us. That's the primary thing we need to start acknowledging, that we are not here as flawed. We are created in a very divine way with all that is necessary. And hence, none of this is monstrous within us, right? Now, what will happen when we start looking at emotions? When we start looking at emotions, there will be clarity in our life. There will be clarity in our communication. For example, I'm talking to my husband about something that I'm doing at home, and I'm exhausted because of what I've been doing at home. And let's say I'm not really getting the support that I need. Instead of using the word exhaustion, if I'm using the word I'm pissed off, the entire context changes. If I'm able to sit with him and say, you know what, I'm exhausted. Can we talk about this because I need help here? Instead of that, if I say I'm pissed off that I'm doing this and I need support here, the context itself changes, right? So the vocabulary that we carry to label and identify our emotions is so important, whether at work, whether in any relationship, because that helps us land exactly what we need to land in any conversation that builds relationship, that increases intimacy, that brings clarity in us. And that's why understanding our emotion is so important. But many times we will not be able to see what is going on within us because of the conditioning that we have got, right? So this morning I was counseling someone, and the person said, when I'm meditating, I think I get in touch with this fear. But the moment I feel the fear, I put it aside. I don't want to look at that fear. So I asked the person, what is the fear about? So the person said, I don't know what is the fear about because the moment I feel it, I put it aside. So when we kept digging it in the conversation to understand what fear is he running away from, we reached a point where the fear is about him disappointing others and others leaving him and him being left alone in life. But it is such a painful experience to even imagine in his heart. That's why he's constantly putting it aside. But when we could actually touch upon the point, suddenly he was like, why am I so afraid of this? Let me start looking at what is it that I'm so afraid of and see whether in meditation can I deal with that pain by myself. Suddenly everything shifted for him as part of that experience. So if we start looking at our own emotions, it is like you are honoring your own self. You are honoring who you are. You are willing to take your shadow with you because we cannot run away from our shadow. How much ever we think we want to run away from our shadow, we cannot do that. So you're saying, come, if you're a fear, let's talk. Let's go for a coffee and talk. If you're shame, tell me what are you here for? What are you trying to tell me? If you are guilt, what do you want me to learn from this experience? So the moment we personify that particular um, emotion within us and give it a very alive form, a human form, or a friendship form, and start talking to that emotion, we will be amazed to understand or realize that all emotions are here as our guiding angels within us. Emotions are such a powerful part of us, and they're all here to guide us. They're all here to teach us something. And that's the power of understanding our emotions.
Thank you very well. You have explained about emotions, how powerful are they? Now I would like to know from you, in your view, what are some reasons that people, experience emotional suffering and sometimes they don't recognize their emotions? Are there some common underlying factors?
Sure. I think it's a beautiful question. I heard about this particular research a couple of years back, and I was really amused when I heard about this research. So, as part of this research, a group of scientists went to Amazon, forest, and they were interacting with a tribe in Amazon. And one of the experiments they did was, so in Amazon forest, it is a very dense forest. So the tribal group that stays there, one interesting experience they have is they don't get to see the sky because of the trees, because of the dense forest. So they're not really used to the sky color, but they're very much um, familiar with all types of green around them because of all the trees and plants around them. But they are not really used to the sky. So what happened was this particular research team, they created a board and they put a lot of boxes of different shades of green color. And in between, they put one blue color box on that particular board. And they asked the tribal people to identify each color on the board. So they went on identifying, the tribal people went on identifying, let's say dark green, bottle green, um, light green, and they went on identifying the green. And when they reached the blue box, they just ignored that box and then they went to the next box because they didn't even know that that color exists. They didn't even know that there is something as a color called blue, and they didn't have the vocabulary. They couldn't identify it. They didn't know how to name it, so they just ignored it. So this is exactly what happens when it comes to our emotions. When we are not in touch with ourselves, when we are not able to identify our own emotions because of various reasons. I'll talk about those reasons in some time. But because of various reasons, when we are not able to see our own emotions, we either believe we don't have those emotions or we don't know how to deal with those emotions, even if we are able to label it. Now, let me take a step back and talk about why are we not able to identify those emotions? Similar to the tribal language, I mean, that tribal experience of not exposed to blue, because of which they couldn't identify blue. We might not have been exposed to that particular emotion, or that particular emotion would not have been allowed in our household when we were kids. For example, in my household, I'm the only child, and I would generally see my parents fighting in my childhood. And while they were going through their life in the way it is meant to, I interpreted it as I am not supposed to get angry with anyone because if I get angry, I will lose peace. They are fighting and they are losing peace because they're angry. So I need to ensure I'm never angry in my life. Only rude people get angry was the belief that I picked up when I was 5 or 6 years old. Till I was 32 years old, I could not just express my anger. Even if the situation demands me to say something in anger, I was so limited by my belief that getting angry is not okay and I'm not a rude person. These were the beliefs that I was carrying, that I will not be able to say what I had to say. Right? So here is an emotion. While people who showed that emotion in my household, I judged that emotion as wrong, because of which I never got in touch with that emotion. Or when I got in touch with that emotion, I judged myself severely for carrying that emotion, because of which I never expressed. So through psychotherapy, I had to go and work with my therapist in order to learn how to express anger in a healthy way. And you can ask Vibha in office how comfortable I am in expressing my anger in a healthy way. Nobody would know right now that I had such a past, but that's because it is a learned behavior. Similarly, with jealous, emotions like jealous, shame, it is very difficult to acknowledge that we can be jealous. We are ashamed of ourselves. We can be ashamed of ourselves. These are very difficult emotions to deal with. And hence, all of us would like to believe that we are beyond that. We are all beyond that human nature and we don't feel jealous about others. We don't feel ashamed about ourselves. This is how we would like to believe, because of which we do not allow ourselves to get in touch with these emotions. So generally, we don't get in touch with emotions either because the emotions were not allowed in the household. For example, in some household, when the child gets angry, and the child will get punished, saying anger is bad. Do not show anger. You have to be happy always. Positive vibes only. Uh, we always, the child will get more candies and chocolates when the child is only being happy. So what you're actually teaching the child is only be positive and do not allow any other emotion. Boys should not cry. Women should not get angry. A lot of gender aspects also can make people not get in touch with emotions. So in my therapy sessions, I see a lot of men whose tears are till here, but they just cannot cry because somebody in their life, their father, mother, teacher, somebody would have told that person in childhood, man up, be a man, do not cry. And then that man is not able to cry in any space. Um, and it's very difficult for them to show the emotions. Similarly, woman has to be graceful. You have to be nurturing. You cannot show your anger. So a woman is not able to bring her anger out. So there could be gender reasons. There could be reasons where we have not been permitted to show emotions, or similar to my case, where the child has interpreted something as right and wrong and being carried away by that limiting belief for the rest of the life. These are the reasons why we don't understand emotions or even realize that we are going through some emotions. Uh, Now, coming to your question, uh, how do we even start recognizing that these are there? Just by starting to observe and labeling, rather than running away from it, how much ever uncomfortable it is. Just to pause and ask ourselves, am I angry? Am I disappointed? Am I sad? What is going on with me? Rather than just blurting it out or feeling bad with it, just having that comfortable conversation within us, our own willingness to see ourselves, meeting ourselves. That's what is important.
Okay, very well explained, Veena. So, what do I
Hello.
state? Like anger. If I am not able to express my anger, I want to be a good person or like a good child or maybe like a good mother or good wife, and I am not expressing my anger. So definitely I am undergoing through some emotional pain. Am I
Yes,
right?
yes,
So for others, I am a good person, but for myself, I am suffering, right?
yes,
So, is it possible to completely avoid my emotional pain, my suffering, and without hurting others? What may
yeah.
be some practical ways to achieve this ideal condition that
So,
I am able to control my anger or maybe not suppress my anger, express my anger, and other person is also not getting hurt with my emotion? Some
o-
practical tips.
okay, so to start with, um, um, it is okay to get hurt. It is part of all our lives. So we do not need to carry the pressure of never hurting others. Because what we are doing with by carrying that pressure is we are putting ourselves on a higher pedestal. We are thinking, I'm nice, I'm kind, I will never hurt others. Right? And I always say this. The moment we put ourselves or others on higher pedestal, there is only one way from there to fall down. Right? There is no direction after putting ourselves or others on higher pedestal. We will fall down from there because we are not allowing ourselves to be human, and we are all human. So, what does it mean to innately accept that humanness in us? To say it's okay to be human and to absolutely experience the entire spectrum of being a human. That is the first thing to start understanding. Right? We are not God. We are not divine here to say, I am going to live a life without hurting anyone else. That itself is a spiritual ego. This particular point of I will live without hurting anyone is a spiritual ego. Because if you take any mythology, if you take any aspect of our history, actually our gods have also hurted others. So it's not that we have somebody who have never hurted others. So why is that difficult to accept that in every moment we are going to impact others and others are going to impact us, and there is a point that we can meet beyond getting hurt. Can we meet there? Right? So sometimes hurting each other can lead to intimacy. Sometimes hurting each other can lead to deeper honesty. And can we meet at that point? Can we look at going to that point rather than looking at getting hurt as the end point? That's the first aspect. So the limiting belief that we need to work on here is to carry the pressure that we need to live without hurting others. But to say, others will disappoint me, I am going to disappoint others. It's okay. We are all human in this phase. Right? That's the first one. Second is emotional pain, similar to hurt. Emotional pain is like death, right? Like how Buddha said, there is no death. There is not even a single house that we can find out in this earth where death has never happened. We cannot come across a single human being who has not gone through pain and suffering. But there is a difference between pain and suffering, and that's very important to establish here. So, what is pain and what is suffering? Pain is to experience life when life is unfolding, happening the way it is meant to be. We cannot avoid pain. Pain is inevitable. We cannot control pain. We cannot run away from pain. We cannot do anything about pain. And if the pain is something that we have to experience as part of this life in this body, that pain will come out. That is pain. Suffering is a deep attachment to that pain and to feel, why me? Of all that I've done in this life, why do I need to go through this? Everybody seems to be happy. Why is this happening to me? Why am I suffering in this way? So, somewhere without our realization, getting attached to the identity that we can as a mother, as a daughter, as a husband, to wife, as a sibling, as a leader, in any role, the moment we attach to that identity and label it and think that that is everything about us, then we will start suffering because it will start choking us. Because the pain is inevitable. We have to anyway feel it. But along with that, we are complicating it by now the attachment to the identity or label, right? And that's when the suffering will start happening. But with awareness, with observation of what is happening to us, with understanding of our emotions, by a curiosity to know who we are and what is this world about, what is this emotion about, with that curiosity we will start realizing that suffering is not mandatory. There is a choice in front of us whether to suffer or not. But pain is mandatory. We cannot avoid pain. All of us will go through pain, but suffering can be avoided. Yeah. So one or two examples that I can give is I went through an abortion 2 years back. In January 2022, I got pregnant. And in my almost towards the end of third month, I lost the baby. And it was something called missed abortion. Missed abortion means the message of abortion has not gone to the brain. So the body is behaving as if the child is growing. Right? So almost for 10 days, I didn't know the child has gone. And I was walking around, without knowing this. But when I got to know about it, there was grief for sure. Because as a mother, the grief is like very, very part of it. And that is a pain. And I did cry. When the grief came, I did cry. And then it automatically happened that I thanked the child for being with me for 3 months. And I said, for some reason, you had to go. Thank you for being with me and gifting me all that you gifted in the last 3 months. And I just let go of the child. And it was such a beautiful experience of closure that there was no more attachment to the identity of, oh, what if the child was born? It would have been such a nice experience. Um, if only that had happened, the life would have been different. No, there are no what ifs in life. Life is happening now. And the more we accept the way it is happening in the here and now, the more we surrender, the more we are able to accept the pain for what it is without an additional wish for something else. And the moment we don't have that additional wish, it means there is no attachment. So there is no suffering.
Very well put, Veena. We have Saroji wanting to ask a question. Saroji, can you please unmute yourself? Saroj Ranjanji?
Am I audible right now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Uh, Good afternoon, everyone. Actually,
Now,
I was working at a school, that is Kendriya Vidyalaya, run by central government, and I am a retired person since last 2 years. Then, while I was at school, I used to counsel the children as well as parents
sorry,
with regard to with, with regard to adolescent problems of the children. I used to counsel the parents. Am I audible to you?
yes.
Yeah. Then what happened after 2 years? Then I used to counsel the parents. Parents have got my number and they used to call to me for some this or that problem or this or that solution. So recently I had a problem with a parent. What he asked me is that now his child is adult, his son, and got married too. And after getting married too, he has the similar emotions as when he was a student of mine, when he was not married. He was not performing well, and that is why his father was shouting at him and was giving this or that suggestion. He was getting annoyed with him. He was angry upon him and his son. So now, slowly he was thinking that, but his child was sometimes getting back to him and telling that you are telling this and that. So his uh, father was keeping mom closed. Even after getting married, also, the son is behaving in such a way. I mean, the similar emotions he has. My father was always shouting at me because I was not reading well, and this is not actually a good father's symptom. And what should I do now, sir? He told me. Then my solution I have given to keep a few days your mom closed and see that the situation he will face, similar situation he will face slowly, and let her mother speak to him and let the persons those to whom he obliges speak to him like that. Some solutions I have given. Now, being being a participant of this webinar, and I seek your reply to this context.
Sure.
Will you please help me in this regard, madam?
Sure. Thank you so much for bringing this up. Actually, what you're bringing out is a very powerful, important point. So, more than answering for this context, I will also talk about something bigger here. That is, we all pass limiting beliefs from one generation to another generation. My mom, if she has scolded me constantly and if she has been angry with me, when I am scolding my child without my awareness, there is a high possibility I will do it the way my mother has done, unless I'm aware about it. Right? So a lot of us pass our innate fear and shame without our awareness to the next generation. You know, I've heard parents saying, don't jump, don't whistle, don't walk like this, don't walk like that, sit like this, stand like that. So when we send messages like this, we are not allowing the child to be a child, right? That we are not allowing the child to grow up the way they are meant to be. So my son's name is Pratyush. He is 14 years old. So instead of helping Pratyush to grow up as Pratyush, if I try to make him as mini Veena, will it work? It will not work. Because he is meant to grow up as Pratyush in this world, not as Veena. Veena is here in this body. But a lot of us, without an understanding of this, we will force our beliefs onto the child and to make them the way we would want them to be, rather than allowing them to be who they want. Right? So giving guidance is very different from forcing guidance. So what happens is, a big part of this is, without our awareness, we pass a lot of what has come from our parents to our children without our own awareness. So this is called generational uh, script, from a life script point in psychology. So in this case, there are two aspects. One is the guy who's shouting at his son. He might have a lot of grief for himself. He doesn't know how to show that sadness, which is coming out as anger. So a lot of people who are short tempered, a lot of people who shout unnecessarily immediately, if we actually sit and talk to them, they will carry a lot of sadness for many things. and they would have never expressed their sadness in their whole life, which is what is coming out as anger. Anger is generally the protector of the sadness. So, most of us may have permission to express anger, but we may not have psychological permission to express sadness. Sadness is a deeper emotion, vulnerable emotion to show. And hence, that permission is not there for this person that we spoke about. There is a high possibility the person is actually going through some other emotion and not this. And second is, it's not about a solution here, of mother talking to the child or father talking to the child. It's about whoever is losing their temper, what are they actually going through? What is that is going on within them that they're trying to convey? That is not, they're not able to convey it in a healthy way. So to really help them understand themselves, because today you're there to help them and give the solution. Tomorrow, the context, the pattern will continue. We all have patterns. If my pattern is to avoid conflict because of my fear of conflict and anger from another person, I will create the same pattern in my life again and again and again. If my pattern is to shout at other people and without thinking about anything, shouting at other people, I will show the same pattern again and again. So by showing this pattern again and again, what we are doing is creating a pattern in relationships, creating a pattern in our life, creating a pattern in the pain and suffering. So in the context that you brought in, Saroj sir, instead of
Yes.
solving for that one context, if you can solve for sitting with a person who's losing the temper and help them understand themselves here, that will be the longer term solution.
Actually, yes, sitting with him, that is a thing that can bring some solutions. But sitting with him, I mean, that is one-to-one relation I talk about. One-to-one relation here is son and father. And sitting with him, suppose I sit with the child, definitely the child behaves like such a way, will feel that he is gold rather diamond. The
Yeah.
child here, because he is adult now, but he is child before me only, because
Yes,
he was my student.
so
So
this is a very
Divya.
tricky, Saroj sir, this is a very tricky situation where you are trying to be the rescuer in between. And as counselors, we cannot be rescuers in a family, right? As counselors, we cannot rescue people from their pattern of emotional traps. So what does it mean for you to not be the rescuer and for you to be able to hold the mirror to them to say, this is what they need to work on. And it is absolutely important that they own their life and their emotions in order to come out of it. And that would be, if you were to ask my way of looking at this, that would be my suggestion. Whether it's practical, possible, all that, unless I talk more to you and understand the context more, I will not be able to suggest.
Hello, I
Thank
have
you,
one
thank you,
question.
Veena. I think someone is there, Mrs. Lakshmi. Yes,
Lakshmi.
yes,
Yeah,
madam.
I don't know whether how to tell this. You are explaining about the pain and the suffering.
yes.
I'm 83-year-old.
Okay.
4 years back, I lost my son in America. He was 52 at that time.
Yeah.
During the COVID time, because not of COVID, but something else. We were not able to go and see him in the last because flights were cancelled at that time. So
Okay.
that pain is still there.
Yeah.
Does it comes under suffering or pain?
That what we call pain here. Yeah. Thank you for bringing
It
this.
comes as a suffering category or pain category.
Thank you for bringing this such a grieving context to us, Lakshmi. It takes a lot of courage to bring this kind of a context and talk about this in this group.
During that time, I had shingles.
Yeah.
That PNR still it is there after this thing. 4 years still I'm suffering from that pain.
Yeah.
This comes under pain. You cannot avoid.
Yeah.
This suffer. How to get rid of this suffer? How to
Sure.
come out of this?
Sure.
Only son. One daughter, one son. He is the eldest.
Sure, Lakshmi. What we call as pain is primarily a strong grief of losing the son. And the grief of a mother is one of the most difficult emotions in this world, right? A grief a parent goes through of losing the child, right? So here is the grief, the pain here absolutely is. the only way to deal with that grief is accept that grief is part of our life from here. That grief is going to be
It's
an
not easy. It's not easy.
It's not easy, exactly. So the more you're grieving, the more you're crying, the more you're able to, without judging your grief. And I say this to many people who have lost loved ones. We think, I have seen my clients coming back who have lost their parents. When they come back and say, I lost my father, it has been 9 months. All my relatives are asking me to move on. But how can I move on because I lost my father? Through this conversation, I understand. World thinks that grief is something that we can just dust it and go after a few months or years. But grief is something that we will carry in our whole life. Grief is something that will generally become part of us. And we learn to carry it everywhere without getting dysfunction. And to honor that grief on the go. And whenever we feel like crying about that grief. Sometimes, if the grief is taking over, just to sit with that grief without judging ourselves as good or bad, or right or wrong, effective or not effective, with no judgment, being able to cry on the go and be okay with it, how much ever we cry, is the way to deal with this grief. When did it will become suffering? When you're holding the grief and never bringing out because you're thinking, what will others think? Will I be creating a problem for others when I cry? When will others think I'm weak if I keep crying? Probably I'm not able to handle this well. When you hold all these judgments and you're holding that grief, that's when it becomes suffering. If you're crying on the go, you're accepting that pain for what it is. You are grieving because the context requires you to grieve. So you're accepting life for what it is and grieving. But when you're holding the grief, thinking I have to be strong. I have to be strong for my husband. I have to be strong for my grandchildren. I have to be strong for my daughter-in-law. Then the grief is increasing within you. Then at some point your body is choking because it cannot handle the grief anymore. And that will start manifesting as migraine, as back pain, as knee pain, some sort of an indigestion issue, because body wants to process the grief. And you are not allowing it because you want to be strong. But the body cannot take it beyond a point. So body will show it in many other ways and it will start showing up as sickness. And that's why it is very important to allow that grief and fully accept the grief for what it is and keep crying. There is no timeline for grief. There is no deadline here for grief. Grief is an ongoing experience. Till you are there in this life, you are going to grieve for that lost son, and it is okay. But can you, without judging your own grief as good or bad, or right or wrong, can you honor that grief in the memory of that son? That is what accepting the pain is.
No, actually, I was opted for the online classes. I never went out for past 4 years. I don't meet anybody outside. I don't go to any functions. I don't feel like going and meeting people.
Yeah.
See, when I
Yeah.
see any function, I think of my son, so I don't go anywhere.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I can imagine because the grief is very alive in you. And when the grief is alive in you, the more you cry, the more that grief will feel on it. And the more you will be able to start seeing it for what it is. Otherwise, you're holding the grief. When you're holding the grief, it becomes difficult. It becomes a suffering.
Veena,
Thank you.
I'm from Delhi. Can I ask one thing? Are you able to listen to me? I'm Nirmala.
Yes, Nirmala, tell me.
I mean, you really have taken a very good topic, and these days, most of the people they are passing through emotional traumas and all. I think one of the reason is that there is a famine of love and famine of compassion and emotions and all. But I have felt from my own experience in my life that spiritualism help a lot. I mean, since I lost my husband in a
Yes.
very young age, but when I read Gita, and in Gita, it gave so much of strength when Lord Arjuna said that it is even death is not the end of life. Atma Ajar Amar Avinashi. So I can tell from my own experience that in at this stage, everybody is passing through all this trauma. But I think this gyan, the knowledge, and the spiritualism, it really gives some strength
Absolutely.
to you.
Bang on, Nirmala Devi, ma'am. And thank you for bringing this up. In fact, let's add more to what you have said. Let's add some spiritual layers to this. I am reading this book called The Holy Science by Sri Yukteswar. In that book, he's talking about how Bible and our Vedas are saying the same thing. How the Bible and Bhagavad Gita has the same message. The gods could be different, but the message is the same. So if purely looking at from a spiritual point, what is this pain and suffering? Without pain, we are not going to evolve. Each time in each life, when we are coming up with a certain way of evolving in this life, if we are all in comfort zone, if we are all in a position where life is happening exactly the way we want it to happen, life is happening exactly according to our expectations, will we ever grow? We will not grow. We will not do anything to do anything about ourselves because we are absolutely okay with everything because life is happening the way it want to happen. We want it to happen. So pain is the doorway of an inner journey. Pain compels us to pause and look within to say, who am I? Why am I suffering? Do I deserve this suffering? What do I need to do about this suffering? What about me do I need to change? These are the questions a pain forces us to ask. We are not here in this world to suffer, right? There is no sadist divine out there who wants us to suffer in this world. So there must be a reason for why suffering and pain exist in this world, and that is to make us pause and make us to go within. But we are so caught up with everything around us. There is zero time for us to go within, whether to meditate or to look at our own egos, to look at ourselves to say, where am I creating difficulty for myself? Where am I contributing to my own suffering? We never ask these questions. We are so caught up with people around us are creating suffering. We are all doing everything right. That's a general tendency that we would like to get it because we are trapped in that spiritually, right? So the job of pain is to act as a doorway for us to go within. And the more we go within, the example that I give is look at it as a lot of streets, gullies are there within. Some gullies will be there with beautiful light, a pond with a lotus, some beautiful crystals and diamonds and whatnot. Some gullies will be there which are stinking. Some gullies will be there which are dark. Some gullies will be there which you didn't know is there in you. So the more you go within, it's a journey that you take to different gullies within you, different streets within you to say, oh wow, this gully have never come within me. I didn't know this particular street was there within me. Let me travel and see where is this taking me and understand myself. Oh, this particular street, this looks beautiful. And this is probably really, the side of me that I'm proud of. Oh, this particular side of me, this gully, I'm scared to walk in this. Or probably I'm ashamed to walk in this because there is a lot of ugliness there. Stinking aspect is there about. So the moment we start seeing our own inner world as a world that we can travel, and it is okay to travel, and it is very safe within for us to go inside and look at ourselves, there will be a larger understanding. Our conscious will expand in terms of our understanding of the pain and suffering. And suddenly we will start realizing that pain is a gift. Pain is a gift to help us evolve, to help us heal, to help our soul expand our conscious in this world. Pain is not here to make us suffer. Pain is here to help us grow. So life is not happening for us. So if life is not happening, generally we look at life as, oh, life is happening to me. Why is life happening to me in this way? So life is not happening to me. Life is happening for me to grow. And it will look at outside, at a superficial level, it will look very harsh, like how Lakshmi ma'am mentioned right now. It is heartbreaking. It is very harsh at the outside. But if only we go inside and ask ourselves, what is this offering me? What am I meant to heal from this? What am I meant to learn from this? What am I meant to carry as part of this experience with me and be okay with it? Suddenly the conscious expansion will Yeah. And that's where more than I, me, myself, the consciousness will start feeling. And when the consciousness starts feeling, suddenly we are in touch with cosmos. And that's the expansion that happens.
So, Veena, I wanted to tell you this thing only. Is Sukoon Unlimited. What we are trying to understand the emotions of the people who are coming to our platform. And we are having support sessions also, like grief. It's very, very difficult to handle this
Yes.
emotion. It takes years, So I can understand when Lakshmi Madam was expressing, it's very difficult. But at Sukoon Unlimited, we are providing this feature that we all can come on a platform and we can discuss our grief. We can, understand the steps, whatever steps are there, and then we can accept our emotion. So this is a very good part of the platform. Here, my intention is just to give that brief that people are aware about the emotions, because if we recognize our emotions, we can handle them very well. And then only sukoon will come in their life. We have chosen this word with very love, how sukoon can come in one's life when a person has understood self very well.
Yeah.
So, like a team, a Sukoon Unlimited team, like they try their best to give the opportunity to our seniors to understand their emotions and try to seek some solutions through our platform. And I think that you will agree, conversation is the, strategy to help to understand, and then first thing to recognize, to understand, then navigate our life, and then grow after that, because any emotions gives us an opportunity to grow in life. So can you just tell us about this? And I would also like to know from the group, till Veena is giving us this thing, ki each one of us can give only one word for their emotions with which they are sitting right now.
And to
So
message
we
it.
will be very happy. They can write in chat box one emotion. It may be frustration, it may be depression, it may be anger, you may be tired, anything, whatever is coming in your mind. If you can write in chat box, that will be nice. And I am coming back to Veena. You just tell us like how our platform and how conversations importantly
Sure, Anubhav.
help us to navigate our life through
I
conversation.
will also come back to you, Ravindra sir and Madhaki ma'am. I can see that you have raised your hand.
Yeah,
Give
yeah,
us 2
yeah, you
minutes,
can.
we'll
Yes,
come
yes,
back to
yes,
you.
yes.
Thank you, sir.
So here, look at it as it's an alchemy that we go through with it, right? The pain gets converted to wisdom. The pain gets converted to purpose. The pain gets converted to knowledge about universe and cosmos. So for that alchemy to happen, we have to allow that alchemy to take place. And there are many different ways for this alchemy to take place. One beautiful way of it is to allow ourselves to be seen as human with those emotions, and for us to bring it out so that we are owning that emotion. And when we own the emotions will support us, right? That's the way it works. And hence the alchemy will start happening there. It's like when we are allowing ourselves to be seen with emotions, the emotions feel honored, they will go away. But when you don't see them is when they will keep chasing you. So conversation is one very beautiful way of processing emotions. Meditation is another beautiful way of processing emotion, where you are allowing everything to come to the surface without judging it, and let it come and go, let it come and go. And the more it comes and go, we will realize the nature of universe is imperfect. There is nothing in this universe that is perfect. In this moment, all our bodies are working very hard to have an elder body, right? To make us get older. So when every second our body is going through a shift, the body that we have in the previous moment is not the body that we have in this moment. So nothing is permanent in this world. So are the emotions. So are the relationships. So are the contexts that we are in. So are the complications. So are the pleasures. Everything will come and go. So meditation is another beautiful way of just observing without judging for things to come and go and come and go. Right? Similarly, journaling. If you want to just If you're not a person who can talk in front of people, if you're generally shy, if you don't have vocabulary, you also don't have the patience to sit and meditate. You can journal. Um, that's another way of expressing your own emotion. See, in some way, it has to come out to your awareness and out of the body. That's the only invitation to. And the more that happens, the more you are respecting and honoring your emotions, they will honor you. As simple as that. And the more you're running away from it, the more it will chase you. As simple as that. So, what all needs to be done? It could be being part of such a community. It could be creating friendships here and to courageously say, I want to talk about my grief today. So, there are moments where I go to my female group, women group, and I'll say, guys, folks, I want to talk about my sadness. And they're all sitting and listening to me. And I will say, as part of my sharing, I'll say, I don't want any advice on how to deal with my sadness. I know that, but I want to talk about my sadness in front of you. So they all know what to do when I'm talking about my sadness. Otherwise, what happens is the moment we talk about sadness, if you are not comfortable with sadness as an emotion, all of you are going to right now advise me as to what all can be done to take care of that sadness. So it is so important to understand what do you want from people when you're sharing about your emotions. It's absolutely okay to say, I don't want to be advised. I just want to be heard today. That's fine. That is also a way of holding the space. Not every conversation is about solving. We are not missions to fix, missions to be fixed. Sometimes we just want to express and we are okay. And we don't probably what we are looking for is not an advice. And is it okay to talk? Is it okay to clarify it? Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
May I come in now?
Yes, Aditi ma'am. After that, Ravindra sir, we'll get back to you. After that, Hasina ma'am, we will get back to you. Go ahead, Madhuri.
Thank you so much. You talked about two very important things. One is limiting beliefs, which kind of almost become like our coping mechanism,
Yeah.
and the ability to let go.
Yes.
And so in my mind, I'm saying that sometimes we're so attached to those limiting beliefs that even though we may want to let go, we find ways to justify for ourselves why we have to continue to hold those emotions as a coping mechanism, and then we don't allow ourselves to heal. So would love to hear your thoughts on how can we clear that? How can we sort of clarify that?
Brilliant call out, Madhaki ma'am. Many times our mind plays a trick with us, and that's what we call Maya or illusion as a concept, right? And mind has a very beautiful way of playing the trick with us. This morning, another client was telling how he's so scared to say things to his parents. And whatever they do, whatever his wife does, whatever her parents does, he's okay with everything and he's getting frustrated inside. But he's not telling anything, talking anything outside. And the reason he's giving to himself is my dharma is to respect everyone. Look at how beautifully his mind is playing, to make him get confined to his own comfort zone.
Yeah.
So when Bhagavad Gita happened and when that war happened, Krishna never said, don't fight. Krishna said, go and fight, that is your dharma. So here is a context where just to take care of the fear of context, just because of my shame of anger, and I don't want to show anger, that same limiting belief is being reconfirmed by my intelligence and brain that this is them. So when questions and answers are coming from the same space, it's coming from the same bias. That's what we need to first understand. And that's why, going back to Anubhav ma'am's point, conversations are important.
Yeah.
Because you will be able to see my ego, I will be able to see your ego. But none of us will be able to see our own ego. So conversations become very helpful because we are allowing somebody to show us our own egos. And the more we carry ego here is nothing but the limiting belief, the belief that we have picked up in order to survive in this world. What I picked up as a belief to survive in this world when I was 6 years old, I will be still carrying when I'm 42 years old. And I'm still carrying when I'm 65 years old, thinking that that is the way to live. And that is the trap we are all in. We are not able to pause and tell ourselves, it helped me survive when I was 6. It is not helping me survive now. Um, probably then I would have thought rude people get angry and I should never get angry. But is it possible to live a life without getting angry? How can I learn to create healthy conflicts instead of believing conflicts is a no-no? How can I learn to create healthy conflicts? Right. So the first point to break limiting beliefs is to understand that we are creating our own suffering. Ouch. That is a very difficult point to own because we would like to believe world is creating our suffering, right? So the first point is to own a limiting belief to say, is my own belief, is my own value system, is my own principle bringing me unhappiness instead of bringing me peace? The way to understand that we carry a limiting belief is a value system of ours is bringing us more unhappiness than peace. That's a way to understand that we are carrying a limiting belief, right? If we are clearly coming from an empowered belief, we'll be in a flow, we'll be joyful, we are not going to feel constrained. So the moment we start understanding, why am I not peaceful? With this belief, ideally I should have been happy. Why am I not happy? Then we will start understanding that it's a limiting belief. Then the moment we start acknowledging that this belief of mine is limiting me, then the question is, what is the shift in my belief that has to happen right now in order to bring me peace, in order to make me happy? And the more we normalize this change, for a lot of us, change is something not okay, right? When I go for school, college reunions, when somebody say, "Oh my God, Veena, you're not changed at all," it is like a proud thing for us. Oh, I'm not changed at all. According to me, that's the worst thing to hear from someone. You have to change in your life. You have to change every year. Your profile has to change. If you're not changed for last 40 years, I'll be very worried for you. So somewhere accepting that it's okay to change and keep looking at how am I contributing to my own suffering? Is there a belief that I need to shift so that I can pick up another belief that will give me happiness? Probably the belief that I'm picking up now may not help me after 10 years. I should be willing to change the belief again then. That again may not help after 10 years. Again, I should be willing to change the belief. It's an ongoing journey. It's a never-ending journey in each life, in each body. And that's why it is eternal. And can we show the endurance and patience to keep looking at ourselves and go with it? Because we owe this to ourselves. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, thank you so much. Very
Most
nice. Thank you. Thank
Okay, Ravindra sir, go ahead.
Thank you, ma'am.
Very good evening
Great.
to all.
Thank you.
And I'm connecting with you all from Bangalore.
Okay.
At the very outset, let me thank Sukoon Unlimited, the volunteers, and the entire platform there for organizing such a enriching, meaningful, and insightful discussions this evening. And Veena madam has been really, explained to us in such simple terms and all that. So entirely what I would sum it up our what learning I had today this evening from this conversation is that pain is inevitable, suffering is a choice that one makes. So let me draw an analogy or a sort of a metaphor on this. We all have pain, physical, emotional, etc. etc. Just take a small thing. I have put my hand on the hot plate or a hot stove and I got blisters. Painful, very painful at the very start in an emotion. As you said, pain emotions are basically one way of bringing wisdom to us. So that is something which I got this pain, I got blisters on my hand. I remain with the blisters. What happens is suffering comes in, agony comes. Yes. So what normally we do there is that we heal the blisters. I take an healing route to bring down my pain. In Sukoon, what I understand is this conversation is a medium for healing. When people share their joy and sorrow with others, a lot of healing happens from the joy. Of course, our learning and our positivity is inside out is, and when we have our agonies and when we have a pain and suffering inside, we get healed by this by merely sharing. Sometime back, as you know, what Veena madam says, every conversation may not be a healing.
Yeah.
Yes, apparently it is not. But if I come here before Veena madam and sit down and share myself, I bring out all this and I go back. Veena madam may not have, she would have just held the space for me and empathized with me on this. I just go home. What do I feel? Lighter,
Yeah.
lighter, and lighter. So I should say that these are the basic learnings which I have. Emotions are perfectly all right. We are all emotional beings. We have classified this into negative emotions and
Yeah.
positive emotions.
Yeah.
Negative emotions are illegitimate. Positive emotions are legitimate and
Mr.
welcome.
Ravindra, sorry to interrupt you. Actually,
Anji.
I can see one more hand.
I'll
So
just
it's
conclude
like
that within just
Veena,
give
if you
me,
can
yeah.
address.
Yeah.
Because summing up, it's okay because time, we have to see the
Okay,
time.
fine.
And
Thank you. I
then,
respect that. I
Thank you.
respect that. Thank you so much.
Hasina.
Yeah.
So, madam, you can come.
Yeah, Hasina.
I wanted to share that I lost my elder son. He was suffering from kidney failure.
Okay.
He was on dialysis for 14 years. And when he died, you will be surprised. I didn't feel anything. I was so relieved that he's gone and then his suffering has ended. I just till today, I'm feeling happy that whenever he went because his suffering is gone.
Yeah.
And that is what I wanted to share with everybody because he was even given those number of days. It's over.
Yeah.
You have to just face that. And you can control yourself in your emotions. Just wanted to share that little bit.
Thank you, Hasina ma'am, for bringing this. I can't even imagine the pain that you and Lakshmi ma'am are going through. While you spoke about relief at the passing of your son because he's not suffering anymore, there is grief. And this is not about controlling that grief. It's about acknowledging that grief because the relief and grief can coexist. It's not about either or. And multiple emotions can coexist within us and all are valid within us. So the idea is for each of us, based on our life, based on our context, it's such a unique experience. Who's to say what is right and wrong? So whatever is real for you, going back to Ravindra sir's beautiful point, instead of saying this is positive, this is negative, this is right, this is wrong, those are all ways of looking at black and white life. We have a life of rainbow in this world, right? Can we touch the entire spectrum of rainbow by saying, yeah, I feel relief and grief. I am okay to experience this and this at the same time because both are about honoring my son. And both coexist as a mother, and it's okay. And for each of us, if we can start allowing that spectrum of emotions within us, instead of getting stuck in polarities, because we are so stuck in polarities, is why we suffer. It's a very important point to understand. If we believe that polarities is how we need to live life, we are going to constantly get stuck between right and wrong and good and bad. But none of us are only light or darkness. We are all a combination of light and darkness. All of us have darkness within, whether we acknowledge it or not. All of us have light within, whether we acknowledge it or not. So can we completely accept that side of us and to say, yeah, when this happens, I'm this, when this happens, I'm this, and both are me. And hence there is nothing to judge within me as emotions. Suddenly we'll start realizing that it's okay to feel all emotions. There are no positive and negative emotions. Emotions are just emotions. And emotions are here to guide us. And it's okay to experience all emotions as they are.
I requested everyone to share the emotions. So right now I am slightly concerned, with one emotion. which Jyoti Ramesh has written, said, I would like if she can come and she can just share why she's feeling sad. Jyoti ma'am, can you just share with us? Or would you like to share? If Veena is there,
Actually,
if she can
the
help
way I
us.
Hello?
look at it, Sarva,
Jyoti ma'am, can you come on the Zoom?
actually,
Hello?
sorry, Sarva ma'am, you did not hear. It's okay for people to feel whatever they feel they are, and we don't need to immediately pull them out from the delusion. So it's okay for them to not talk about it. It's okay
Okay.
for them to not process it. If somebody is feeling sad, can we just let them be sad and be with it, rather than
Fine,
making them talk about
fine.
it, process it?
Nuba,
So the idea is to
can I ask
start
a
getting
question?
more.
Yes.
Sati,
Uh,
sir, can I just complete this point?
okay, please go ahead.
Thank you. So, it's very, very innate need in us as humans that when we feel somebody sad or crying, we want to do something about it immediately. Can we pause and not go through that need of ours? If somebody's crying, let them cry. Let them go through that emotion. Let them feel that sadness fully. And let them not have a need to justify it or share it. Can somebody just be sad and say, I don't want to talk? And it's okay.
Yes, thank you so much, Veena, for sharing this, because Jyoti also agrees with this. Actually, my intention was ki you are expert here. If she can get some help, like some of us have shared the feeling of grief. And then after sharing the feeling also, we feel slightly light. I understand with this point also, ki whatever emotion is, we should be with that.
Yeah.
But I was coming from that
I
thing
understand.
only, ki, okay, sharing. If this
Is
is
it
the
possible to
opportunity.
Absolutely.
see Jyoti
So-
ma'am? Jyoti on the screen so that I can make out who she is.
No,
Jyoti.
it's okay if she doesn't want to come.
It's okay for her to not.
It's okay. Let her be like this only.
Okay.
We appreciate like if she doesn't want
Thank
to.
you, Jyoti, for your concern.
Yes.
Veena, I have a question. This is
Actually,
Balamurali.
somebody else wanted to ask a question before you, sir. Give me a minute, Balamurali, sir. Somebody else had
Yeah,
said they
Mr.
want.
Karunakar, you can ask and then we will come to you, Mr. Balamurli.
Yeah.
Mr. Karunakar?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I
Firstly,
think
thank
Sarthi.
you. Thank
Okay.
you. I'm Sarthi. So we almost on a regular basis manage conversations with pain. So something we are used to. But I want to ask you two questions. One is, of course, I've always been a believer that pain is positive. It's not a negative word. It's always a positive
Sorry, I didn't
word.
get that. Sarthi, sir, could you repeat? I didn't understand.
Pain is positive.
Okay.
It's not negative. It's not a negative, because pain, only when you realize pain, you feel the loss. So you don't realize how much you lose if you have the pain. So if you look at life from that angle, probably it will be easier to look at the pain in a different manner altogether. Secondly, while we converse with our users in different people we talk to, can you tell me how do we converse? Because people with pain normally don't share much. They don't open out very fast. I mean, just now one person did share her grief very well, but not many people like to share pain. So how do we do that? How do we get to that situation to, in a conversation, to understand and open up the person?
So, Sarthi, sir, pain is a very personal experience. It's a very, very personal experience. I think everybody should have the freedom to decide whether they want to, how they want to experience it. Somebody would want to talk, somebody wouldn't want to talk. Somebody would want to cry in public, somebody would want to cry in person. Somebody would want to just read a book to deal with it, somebody would want to sleep to deal with it. It's a very, very personal choice. So, actually, as you were asking this question, Mata Kinik ma'am has also asked, how do you show empathy when somebody is expressing an emotion? I'm going to connect these two questions and bring the answer. When somebody is not opening up, is how comfortable are you just sitting with a person in silence? That is also a way of dealing with emotion and helping the person to deal with it. It is not always about conversation. Sometimes when my son is like really frustrated about something, He's angry and he's not willing to talk because he's a teenager. And in his mind, you know what? You're not capable of solving my issues. My world and problems are bigger. This is the way he's looking at right now in his world. So all I can do is I will just go to his room and I'll say, can I sit here for some time? I feel like sitting with you. And he's doing his own thing. I'm doing my own thing. There's no conversation happening there. But I know just the mere presence and just sitting there, there is something that is happening between us for him to know that whenever he wants to share something, I'm there with him. And this is what my husband does with me. This is what some of my friends do with me. I have a best friend who will ask me when I'm going through something, do you want to talk or do you just want to have an ice cream? And I'm like, let's just have an ice cream. And probably I'm not in a mood to talk that. So for each person, the way we deal with emotions different. Unfortunately, a lot of extroverts judge introverts believing, why you're not talking? Talking is the way to solve it. And that's a very innate pressure that we give as extroverts to introverts to talk and to bring it out. Actually, that is not required. Right? So the idea is to and start understanding them expressing is your need or their need. Them having to express or wanting to express is your need or their need. Can you empathize with their need and be with them for the full sake of being with them rather than making it about you and you wanting to solve it and you wanting to help them? Can you purely be there with them because that's what is required for them and it is about them? And the more you are coming from this understanding and this energy, people will automatically open. I've never had a single person in my life who have not opened up with me. And that I believe is because, of course, there is a divine intervention here by them helping me out with this energy. But apart from that, I do believe it is because it is all about them and never about me when I'm sitting with them. And hence, people feel safe suddenly. People will feel that, okay, this person's not forcing. Suddenly, they will be okay to be themselves in front of you. Right? So that's Matanki ma'am, also to answer your question. That's one way of showing empathy. Another way of showing empathy is to be able to tell the person, whatever you're going to share, I will respect it. I'm not here to advise. And if you feel like sharing, share it. If you don't feel like sharing, it's okay. And to give that permission and for them to choose what they want to do about it. And you being open about it, that's another way of going about it. Another way of going about it is when somebody's crying. Sometimes you will be able to understand their pain. Sometimes you won't be able to understand their pain, but you'll be able to, sense, imagine what they're going through. So to be able to say, I completely relate to what you're saying. I can understand what you're going through. I can't understand what you're going through, but I can only imagine what sort of a pain that you're going through. So having these kind of vocabularies, rather than directly jumping to solution to fix their sadness or emotion, that's another thing. Empathy is not sympathy. You try to solve for someone else when you are sympathizing with them. When you're genuinely empathizing with them, you will just be with them and not have a need to solve for it for others. Right? So it is so important to differentiate between sympathy and empathizing. When you are in sympathy mode is when you will start giving actions. When somebody is in emotion, they are not in an action. Let them go through the emotions. After that is when their cloud around their head is removed, so that they can think about what next. Allow that time for them and let it happen at their own pace, not at your pace. These are the ways to express empathy. Sometimes when somebody shares something, I don't share anything. Instead, I'll just ask them, would you like to have a hug or would you just want me to sit around? And if the person says, yeah, I think I want to have a hug, then I will hug them and I will hug them really tight. Right. And it's just about what they want. If they say, no, I don't need a hug, I'm not very comfortable with hug, you just be around, then it's what it is. So that's where the empathy is really important to say. They're not crying in front of you or sharing their emotion in front of you because they are not capable of solving it. They are crying in front of you because they feel sad about what they're going through. So you don't need to be the rescuer. They are their own rescuers. Believe that they have the capacity to solve for themselves. You just need to be around. That's a way to empathize.
I'll add to this. So Veena and I go back 2 years now. I'll just give an example of what Veena is saying and how she practices this in her daily life. Now, this is when I joined a company called Glance, and I met Veena there. When I joined Glance, I had just lost Papa to COVID, and I hadn't grieved enough about losing him. And for a year, Veena used to be my counselor and healer. We used to have conversations. The way Veena would enter into that space, she would always seek permission in that discussion. Right? Veena would say that, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be in this space where you're sharing what you're sharing. And that made me always feel very, very safe about what I was about to say or even not wanting to say. And a shared silence was as therapeutic as a shared conversation. And because it was an unjudged space, it was a healing space. And I think I was a high performing, depressive in a state for almost a year before I had a breakdown. And I remember meeting Veena post breakdown and being in absolute state of despair, vulnerability. And Veena had made that space so safe that it felt okay to be in that state. So what she says is what she practices every single day, and that's how she touches the life of every person she meets.
Thank you. Okay, so we are done with all questions.
Yeah,
I
I
think
have a question.
Bala Murali ji.
Gitanjali ma'am has a question. Let's go for
Also Bala ma'am. Bala sir, sorry. Can we do that first?
We can't hear you, Gitanjali ma'am. You're on mute.
Can I speak?
Gitanjali ma'am, you're on mute. Okay, sorry. Before that, Balamurli sir had a question.
Yes.
Let's take that question and then come to Gitanjali. Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead, please.
Yeah, this is a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Sponsored by Sukoon Unlimited. And Veena has explained how to identify emotions, express them, how to share with others. So it was really informative and insightful discussion going on here in this evening. So actually, I am thinking about controlling of emotions because emotions come as a result of immediate reaction. As you know, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So emotion is a part of that reaction, and emotions may be lasting for many hours, for longer time or short time, right? So that is how we humans are equipped with this emotional system. Our body is equipped with the emotional system, and that emotion must be controlled somehow in between the reaction and the time when we get emoted, right? So when someone talking about that they lost their son and they think about that loss and it is painful, they say that it is painful, and if it lasts longer and longer, as you told that you are holding the grief, right? You said that you are holding the grief and that becomes suffering, right? So you may have to explain me now, is there any point in which we could give a barrier between that reaction and emotion, that part? So that would be more helpful. That is what is my question.
Brilliant question, Balamurli sir. Thank you for bringing it up. So, take an example. 3 of us are witnessing a war in news. Let's say 3 of us from this group are witnessing a war in news. All 3 of us will have different reactions to the same scene. Why? It's because of some beliefs and stories that we have been carrying in our body. That gets activated. The nerves takes the message to the brain, and the brain activates the emotions in us, and that's how we are reacting, right? And depending on our life story, depending on the stories we carry within us, depending on the beliefs that we carry within us, our reactions are going to be very different. But the incident that is happening in front of us is the same. but our reactions are very different. So this is very important to start. It's very important to start understanding that all our three reactions are valid. It's valid for us based on our life story. There is nothing here as yours is a better reaction, mine is the best reaction. The other person did not react well. These are all our judgments. If you're not judging any of this, all three of us are reacting in the way we know, the way that we are used to our life. That's the first point. Second is, it is not about controlling emotions. The more you control emotions, the more you suffer. Right? Whether it is anger, whether it is sadness, whether it is shame, whether it is disappointment, whatever is the emotion that you're controlling, you will suffer with that in your body. So the idea is to learn how to manage emotions. There is a big difference between controlling emotions and managing emotions. Controlling emotions is I am constantly holding anger. One day I burst because I can't take that holding anger anymore. And that's when I react, right? But when I'm managing emotions, I'm fully aware that because of the scene, I am affected this way, and I am able to see it for what it is. And with awareness, I'm making a choice that this is how I want to react to this particular situation. So instead of reacting, I'm responding. So how can we start moving from reacting to responding is the primary learning about. Because reaction comes primarily from lack of awareness. Responding comes from awareness. So can we start managing our emotions by uh, becoming more aware of our emotions? For that, we have to be willing to see ourselves. We have to know what is going on within us rather than being completely living in the head. If we don't live in our body, if we don't live in our heart, we will not know what is going on within us. For example, if I'm walking in a garden, let's see, there are some beautiful flowers there. There is a beautiful moon or sun or whatever it is. If I'm living in my head, I'm thinking, what am I going to talk to my manager in the next meeting? I need to tell my husband to buy these things for grocery by tonight. I need to pay electricity bill. Oh, I need to iron my sari for tomorrow. I'm walking in the garden, but I'm actually living in my head. I'm not noticing the flower or sun or rainbow, nothing I'm noticing. So when we are living in the head, we are going to constantly react. But if I'm in my body, I'm going to notice how beautiful that flower is. I can see an entire universe in that flower. I'm going to notice what all shapes the clouds are. I'm going to feel the wind because I'm in my body, I'm not in my head. Can we allow ourselves to be in our body every minute? And that's what mindfulness is. That's what awareness is all about. And the more we allow ourselves to be in our body, the more we'll start responding instead of reacting. And what is a way to move ourselves from head to heart or our body? Observing our breath. The moment we observe our breath, we cannot live in our head. We cannot live in the past or future. We have to come to this moment when we are observing our breath. That's why meditation brings us to the here and now. And the moment we are in the here and now, we will not, we are in awareness already. And we will start understanding what is going on within us. So how can we start bringing our awareness to here and now by constantly observing our breath? And through that, increase our awareness, and through that, move to a space of responding.
Yeah.
Gitanjali ma'am, over to you.
Yeah,
It's wonderful.
I have enjoyed this. I have enjoyed this session so much. And I was able to process something which happened a long time back. I lost my first husband in an accident. And it was very sudden. I mean, he went out at around 6 o'clock, and at 7:30, we got the information that he's no more. But there was nothing to, to buffer it. And I had a son who was 17 and a daughter who was 12. And our financial situation was like crazy. Because all those decisions that we were supposed to make, I thought I was 42, he was 44. We hadn't come around to making any long-term planning. But I don't know what happened. I had been studying Bhagavad Gita for about a year. And what happened to me was I kind of said to him, you've taken a decision now to move. So you move in peace and I will handle what is here.
Yeah.
But I realized that I can't handle everything alone. I can't be the strong mother who can handle. So all of us, to make better, they can never please. So my son and my daughter and me, we became a team. So whatever each one of us could do, we did.
Yeah.
So if I retrained to be able to go and work, my daughter handled the whole family. She handled the expenses and she said, we have to now stop spending so much. And my son, along with his studies, also started working. And so even today, my son is 42 and my daughter is going to be 40. And yet today, any moment when we are feeling down, we can just connect to each other. And at that moment, we're just there for each other. It's not like lots of gyan and wisdom and solutions, but just being there. And, I was very ill at a point and my son came and said to me, Ma, do you think you want to get married? And I was like, are you completely crazy? He said, no, I'm not forcing you. I'm just saying, look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of relationship. So that I have this lovely relationship with my daughter-in-law. She's like my elder daughter. And yet I'm not like putting her in a mold of a daughter. So sometimes she's not. Sometimes she's very different from us. But what happens is that there's space for everyone.
Yeah.
There's space for my husband. There's space for them. And just being there and not having too many expectations that I'm a mother and so I can't cry, or they are children and they have to listen to me all the time.
Yeah.
So we didn't have that. And somehow these years have been joyful years.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm going to connect the dots between what you said and what Valimuri sir said. It takes I think the longest journey that we take in our life is to move from head to heart.
Yeah.
This is the longest journey that we take because we all live so much in our head. I think it takes multiple lifetimes to start living in the heart, to show full emotions, to own our desires, to be okay with who we are, to accept ourselves for who we are with our flaws and with our perfections. So if we can allow ourselves to be human and for the life to unfold for the way it is, and to be okay with the pain, and to completely feel it so that we are not suffering in the process. A pain, when fully felt with awareness, becomes purpose. A pain, when fully with awareness, if we feel it, it becomes a wisdom for this life. And the more we are not looking at that side or dodging it in the need to be strong, the more the suffering is going to be. And that's a crux of this whole conversation.
And
On that
someone
note,
shared just now about Bhagavad Gita. And for me, that was just like, a new way of looking at everything, looking at the fact that if someone has moved on, they're still there with us.
Absolutely.
And so many times I have got messages from my first husband in handling situations which I didn't know how to handle, but I got some message saying that it's okay with this way.
Beautiful.
I was like, it's okay. I mean, it's okay for me to get that message, and it's okay for me to now move on in this. And it's okay for my children to sometimes feel we're still processing. It's not like it's over.
Yeah, it will never get over. It will be there with all of you alive this entire lifetime.
Exactly. And there's so much we've learned. There's so much. And I'm actually grateful for the pain because it makes you humble.
Yes.
It makes you humble. It makes you realize that you can touch other people too, and they are going through pain. And you can sense it. If someone around me is feeling pain, I can sense it. And I can, even emotionally give them a hug. Not physically, but emotionally.
Yeah, that's a very beautiful point because feeling our pain helps us empathize, and helps us realize and connect with others' pain. Many times I get asked in such sessions, how do we empathize with people who are going through pain that we have not gone through? Is it necessary that we should have gone through a certain pain in order to empathize with people who are going through a pain which we have not gone through? So my answer is always that it is impossible in one life for us to go through all types of pain because each of our journey is so different. But the fact that that pain is real for the person who's feeling it, and hence we don't need to discount or trivialize anything about their pain by us telling them things like, oh, life is all positive, why don't you focus on that? Count your blessings, positive vibes only. If we can just avoid all this and just be okay with the fact that their pain is real for them, and like how our pain is real for us, that is where we feel connected. Completely agree. Hasina ma'am, yes, you wanted to share something. Go ahead.
Yes, sorry. What's happening?
I think we lost her.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. I wanted to share this that my grandchildren, I have an elder daughter and a grandson. Now, whenever they miss their father, they just say, Papa is looking from up. He is guiding us.
Yeah.
When they achieve something, they just say, Papa is doing it from us. We don't know how it's happening, but it's Papa who is doing that. So these things are so emotional and they're lovely to feel
absolutely
what they are feeling.
Yeah. Actually, this reminds me, it's such beautiful sharing by you and Geeta Ma'am. It reminds me of the book Seat of the Soul by Gary Zukav. It's a wonderful book. He talks about how in this world we are all caught up with five senses: sense of touching, sense of seeing, sense of smelling, sense of hearing, and so these five senses. We are so caught up with it that we process everything only using these five senses. But there is something called sixth sense, which is equally logical, which is equally real. So how can we allow to experience that sixth sense and accept that also, that we are all capable of feeling that, rather than getting stuck with so-called logic with our narrow mind based on only the five senses? Just because we can feel those five senses, that doesn't mean our capacity to sense ends there. There are many more things beyond the five senses. And what both of you shared is primarily from there. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Okay, so on that
Thank
note,
you.
Lovely session, I must say. Fantastic session.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm just a channel here. I think it's a very, I think the divine was flowing here and they wanted us to experience this. I'm just a channel here. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much.
It has been a pleasure being here and sharing this space with all of you. I feel honored. I feel so humbled about the grace all of you showed, despite the age difference, how beautifully you were willing to learn from me. I'm so full of gratitude right now. Thank you so much. Anubha ma'am, over to you.
Will we be meeting? Will we be having any session again?
We will talk.
Yes.
Viva and I will talk and we will come back to you.
Please.
We will have many more such sessions.
Oh, thank you so much.
Many more. We usually have weekly sessions. So you all are requested to come and join us.
I want to know
Weekly
whether
sessions where?
Veena ma'am,
on Zoom only,
Veena ma'am
no?
gives any counseling, psychological counseling.
I do counsel, yes.
How do you connect? Are you based in Bangalore?
I'm based out of Bangalore. Actually, I am not taking new clients, but I will talk to Vibha because I sense a need in this group for doing multiple sessions. Let me talk to Vibha and come back to you. Probably we can do a meditation session. We can do some sort of a group session as part of this. Let me talk to Vibha and come back to you.
Oh yeah, lovely. That would be very nice.
Yeah, thank you.
So for individual counseling sessions, you can connect.
As of now, I'm not taking the clients because my clientele, my slot is full. So that's why I'm not able to take.
But Veena Sukoon Unlimited can arrange something for them. So I will request that you can connect with Sukoon Unlimited.
Okay.
And please attend all the sessions which are happening. like I think every week there are 2 or 3 such sessions. So you all are requested to see the
Yes.
opportunities available on the platform, Sukoon Unlimited. Please log in and then attend.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much
Thank
for
you so
your
much.
time. And thank you, Veena, for all the insights which you have given to all of us. We are really grateful for all that. Thank you, all the participants. And we
Please,
hope to see you in future sessions.
please can you share your website again,
Thank you
please?
so much.
Thank you.
This is Sukoon Unlimited. Sukoon Unlimited. You will
What a
see.
lovely name.
Yeah, actually, that is
Fantastic.
Sukoon means comfort, which
Yes.
Veena has given us today.
Is it sukoonunlimited.org? Is it .org?
No,
www.
only Sukoon Unlimited.
Okay.
Okay.
Sukoon is a word which means comfort, to give comfort.
The website's name is there on the chat, right? You can come there and see it. It's sukoonunlimited.com. And
Yeah,
now
thank
that
you.
we enjoyed such a beautiful session with Veena, we will surely get her back. She is more of a friend and a family than anything else. So I'm sure we can do more such sessions for all of you.
Yes.
Thanks
again.
a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
for coming.
Bye-bye.
God bless everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. God bless.
Thank you. And thank you. We close the session now. Thank you so much.